In our field, not everything is under our control, but there are a couple things we can do to help make resilience a little easier, but also make ourselves a little bit more durable. So what durability says is, what proactive and protective things can we do ahead of time before we get burnt out? If you've ever had to go to physical therapy and do the same 3 movements 800 times, wake up, you do your toe curls, whatever it is, the main message of physical therapy is strength and mobility, strength and mobility, strength and mobility, strength and mobility, because we know if we are flexible and if we are strong, we will be more resilient to absorb impact and bounce it back instead of experiencing that impact and taking it into our bodies. Strength and mobility, strength and mobility. That makes sense in terms of physical things, which I really love, like physical metaphors. Like, how do we apply it to something psychological like burnout? If we use this Punnett square as a model, what we can see is that there are a couple patterns that emerge. For instance, we're really strong, but we're not very flexible. We become calloused, rigid, potentially even brittle. This is a classic example of the tough guy mentality. Just put emotions aside and tough it out. This does not leave any room for empathy. It doesn't leave room for human interaction. It doesn't leave room for a lot of the things that are required for being socially on a team with other human beings. If we are not empathetic to each other, then we don't create connections. We don't create the trust that's required for high performance teams. What does it mean to be really flexible but not very strong? We become weak. We become fragile. When we do this, we bend to every other demand. We just burn out in times of stress. You have to have both. Now, if you look in the bottom quadrant where you don't have either flexibility or strength, now you're just collapsing. You are so depleted. You have no energy, no motivation, you have no momentum, and you have no structure to kind of even get you there, even if you did. The skill of durability comes down really to 3 major components. The first one, what I would like to call compassionate detachment. This combination of being able to understand and empathize with somebody else's pain without absorbing it as our own. So we may feel for someone and we may cognitively understand their situation. We may even feel what it might feel like for them, but we don't absorb it personally. And this is a line that we must draw around empathy, because you want to be in that position. You want to fully understand that teammate because it helps you help them. But what's not helpful is if you take on their burden and now you are weighed down by it as well. That sounds like a Buddhist thing. Buddhism says you cannot achieve enlightenment until you end the suffering in the world. So motivation is there, and it's not productive to have that cold indifference. The other kind of cool part about this, modern neuroscience understanding of the brain backs this up. What we know is that compassion actually activates reward circuits in your brain, similar to the reward that you would get from doing a good deed for somebody. That tiny little dopamine hit is on the same circuit as this. We also know that personal distress activates pain. And when we have that pain, we are not thinking clearly. We are not always thinking about what the right next thing to do is. In fact, a lot of people, when they feel that pain, that's when they will issue that cold indifference and back away and give themselves some space because it doesn't feel good. What we're talking about is actually emotion regulation. Not turning it off, we're managing that emotion. I would think of this as your strength training. This is the ability to show up with that willpower, with that strength that's going to help you power through. When we are able to differentiate someone else's suffering from our own suffering, and we're able to care deeply about them and continue and be motivated to continue to help and support them, that is strength. That is our ability to carry on in spite of the suffering in the world. That's what we would consider in our model here, the strength component. Okay, now I want to talk about the second piece here. So I have to tell you, back in my previous life, I used to run some of the largest Lego and Minecraft shows in the world. Pretty cool, I know, it was a wild ride, and what we used to say about the events production business is that we used to call it the oh shit business. You would do all of the work and have all the spreadsheets and the forms and all the things and everybody in the same room, and you would say, you're gonna show up here, and you're gonna show up there, and you're gonna run left, and I'm gonna throw the ball right. You would do all of the pre-work to make sure that the event was gonna go off without a hitch, and then stuff goes wrong anyway. I used to have a line of people coming into my office every time we would put on on a show and something would go wrong. And what I wanted to put above my office door so badly was a sign that just said, manage expectations. If we're able to manage our own expectations that, hey, things are gonna change, we're gonna be able to be more flexible. Because when things go wrong and they're outside of our control, it's a little bit easier to manage that. One of the main benefits of having the spreadsheets and having all the organization and doing all the pre-tasks and setting everyone else up for success is that you get to relax. You get to say, we did everything we could. We don't get to feel the anxiety of someone else's mistake. We just say, look, the battlefield has changed and we are now going to adapt. And when we have the mindset of, I'm going to manage my own expectations, knowing that the world is flexible and things will change, if I plan to adapt, it's gonna be a lot easier in the moment when it's really hard. Okay, now let's talk about the last component of durability, active recovery. How many of you have gone out to the gym and you ran 1,000,000 miles on the treadmill, or you lifted all the weights, you picked them up and you put them down and you picked them up and you put them down? It's so easy in our bodies to feel like the hard work was the thing that we needed to create an adaptation in our body. And the reality is that it's a two-part component. You have to have that hard work, but then you also have to have the space to recover. So the recovery is just as important, if not more important, than the stimulus itself. What that means psychologically, for some of us, the best thing we can do is turn our brains off. TV is a good example. But what I would challenge you to do, think to yourself about what are the things and activities that I can do that give me energy, and what are some of the things that take away energy. I have to think about what is something that requires a small amount of attention or a small amount of energy that has nothing to do with work, that will help distract me so I can get into the flow of something that feels good. And when I leave that thing, will have used my brain in a different way that allows my other brain to come back stronger. Like knitting, a puzzle, reading your book. Sometimes I just need to stop what I'm doing and play my guitar for like 20 minutes because I had an afternoon slump. I feel like I'm a weirdo sitting and doing nothing being a problem. I would love to hear what gives you energy or what things you would think give you energy and then do not. Let's put those in the comments. I would love to turn this video into a huge public resource for people who are trying to figure this out. I hope you're great. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll see you next time.